My ungrateful children ignored me on Mother's Day, completely forgot I existed. But when they came crawling back asking for money 3 weeks later. Oh honey, what I did next will leave you speechless. They thought Mom was a pushover. They were dead wrong. Stay until the end because the karma they got. Chef's kiss perfection. If you've ever been taken for granted, you need to hear this story. Hit that subscribe button right now for Tales with Aunt Clara. Well, hello there, my darlings. Pull up a chair, grab yourself some sweet tea, and settle in because Aunt Clara has got a story for you today that'll make your blood boil and then your heart sing. This one's about standing up for yourself when the people who should love you most treat you like yesterday's newspaper. Now, before we dive in, do me a favor, if you've ever felt unappreciated by your own family, go ahead and hit that like button. And subscribe to Tales with Aunt Clara because honey, we've got stories that'll validate every feeling you've ever had. The notification bell too, because you don't want to miss what happens next in our collection of real-life family drama. This story comes from a beautiful soul named Margaret. She's 67 years old, a retired schoolteacher who dedicated 35 years of her life to shaping young minds. But more importantly, she dedicated 40 years to raising 3 children, Daniel, Rebecca, and Thomas. Margaret was what you'd call a devoted mother. And I mean devoted. She was the mom who never missed a single soccer game, piano recital, or parent-teacher conference. She worked 2 jobs to pay for their college educations. 2 jobs. She went without new clothes, without vacations, without treating herself to anything, so her babies could have the best education money could buy. When Daniel wanted to study engineering at an expensive private university, Margaret made it happen. When Rebecca needed help with the down payment on her first house, Margaret dipped into her retirement savings. When Thomas's business was struggling and he needed a loan, who do you think gave him $15,000 with no questions asked? That's right. Mom did. Because that's what mothers do. We sacrifice. We give. We love unconditionally. But here's where things started to get painful, my darlings. Over the years, Margaret started noticing a pattern. Her children would call when they needed something, advice about a problem, someone to watch the grandkids at the last minute, help moving furniture, you name it. And Margaret, being the loving mother she was, always said yes. But when was the last time they called just to see how she was doing? When was the last time one of them offered to help her with something? When she mentioned her back was hurting, did anyone offer to help her with yard work? No, honey. Radio silence. Margaret tried to tell herself she was being oversensitive. They're busy, she'd think. They have their own lives, their own families, their own problems. She made excuses for them because that's what loving mothers do. We convince ourselves that our needs don't matter as much as our children's needs. But deep down, Margaret was hurting. She felt invisible. Taken for granted. Used. So Mother's Day rolls around. Now, Margaret wasn't expecting a parade in her honor. She wasn't demanding expensive gifts or elaborate celebrations. All she wanted was a simple phone call. A text message. A card in the mail. Just some small acknowledgement that said, "Hey Mom, we appreciate you. We love you. We're thinking of you." Mother's Day morning came. Margaret woke up, made herself breakfast, and waited by the phone. She checked her messages. Nothing. She thought maybe they were planning a surprise visit. Nope. By noon, still. Nothing. By dinner time. Not a single word from any of her 3 children. Not a call. Not a text. Not even a Facebook post. Complete and utter silence. Can you imagine? Can you imagine dedicating your entire adult life to raising 3 human beings, sacrificing everything for them, and then being completely forgotten on the one day that's supposed to honor mothers? Margaret sat alone in her house that evening and she cried. She cried hard, ugly tears of hurt and disappointment. And in that moment, something inside her shifted. She realized she had been enabling this behavior. She had taught her children that they could take and take and take without ever giving back. That mom would always be there, always be available, always say yes, no matter how they treated her. Well, that was about to change. 3 weeks go by. Margaret hasn't heard a peep from her children. She stopped calling them. Stopped checking in. Stopped making herself available. She needed space to think, to process, to figure out what she was going to do. Then, out of the blue, her phone rings. It's Daniel, her oldest. Hey Mom. How's it going? Listen, I've got some great news. Sarah and I are planning to renovate the kitchen. We're thinking granite countertops, new appliances, the works. It's going to cost about $30,000 and we're a bit short. Could you help us out with, say, $10,000? I know you've got that nest egg, and you've always been so generous. What do you say? Margaret sat there in stunned silence. Not hey Mom, sorry we forgot Mother's Day. Not how have you been, we've been worried about you. Not even a we love you before jumping straight into asking for money. She took a deep breath and said, let me think about it, Daniel. I'll call you back. Before she could even process the conversation, 2 days later, Rebecca calls. Mom. Perfect timing. I need to talk to you about something important. You know how I've been wanting to take the family to Europe. Well, I found an amazing deal, but we need to book it soon. It's going to be about $12,000 for all of us. I was hoping you could help out. Maybe cover half. It would mean so much to the kids to experience European culture, and you've always valued education and travel. Notice how she's trying to make it sound noble. Like Margaret would be investing in her grandchildren's education. Oh honey, the manipulation was thick. Margaret, once again, said she'd think about it. And just when you think it can't get any more audacious, Thomas calls 3 days later. Mom, hey. So I've got this incredible business opportunity. There's a franchise opportunity that would set me up for life, but I need to act fast. The thing is, I need $35,000 for the initial investment. I know it's a lot, but this could change everything for my family. You've always believed in me, Mom. Remember when you helped me before? This is just like that, except bigger and better. What do you think? What did Margaret think? What did Margaret think? Here's what Margaret thought. All 3 of her children, who couldn't be bothered to send her a single text message on Mother's Day, had suddenly remembered she existed the moment they needed money. Not one of them had called to apologize. Not one of them had acknowledged their failure. They just assumed Mom would open her wallet like she always did. Margaret didn't respond to any of them right away. Instead, she spent a week thinking very carefully about what she wanted to do. And let me tell you, what this woman came up with was absolutely genius. She called each of her children and told them she wanted to have a family dinner at her house. All 3 of them, plus their spouses. She said she had something important to discuss, and it was about their requests. Now her children got excited. They thought Mom was about to open the bank of Margaret and hand out cash to everyone. Daniel started planning his kitchen renovation in detail. Rebecca was browsing European hotels. Thomas was already talking to the franchise company. The day of the dinner arrived. Margaret cooked a beautiful meal, pot roast, mashed potatoes, green beans, homemade rolls, the works. When everyone sat down at the table, you could feel the anticipation in the air. After dinner, Margaret cleared the table and said, "Okay everyone, let's talk about your requests." She pulled out 3 envelopes. Each one had a child's name on it. "Before I give you these," Margaret said calmly, "I want to tell you all something. 3 weeks ago, it was Mother's Day. Not one of you called me. Not one of you texted. Not one of you acknowledged me in any way. I sat alone in this house, the house where I raised you, where I sacrificed for you, where I loved you unconditionally, and I cried." The room went silent. You could hear a pin drop. Daniel shifted uncomfortably. Rebecca looked at the floor. Thomas opened his mouth to speak, but Margaret held up her hand. "I'm not finished," she continued. "For years, I have been there for all of you. Every time you needed money, I gave it. Every time you needed help, I provided it. Every time you needed advice, support, babysitting, a shoulder to cry on, I was there. Always. Without hesitation. Without conditions." She paused, looking each of her children in the eye. "But you know what? I've realized something. I've taught you to be takers. I've taught you that you don't have to give anything back. That you don't have to show appreciation. That you don't have to think about anyone but yourselves. And that stops today." Margaret handed each child their envelope. "Go ahead," she said. "Open them." Daniel opened his envelope first. Inside was a single piece of paper. On it, Margaret had printed out every text message she'd ever sent him over the past year, dozens and dozens of "How are you? Thinking of you. Hope you're having a good day" messages. And beside each one, she'd written no response or one-word answer. At the bottom of the page it said, "Bank of Mom is closed. Request denied. Learn to appreciate what you have before asking for more." Rebecca opened her envelope next. Inside was a homemade coupon book, but not the kind you'd expect. Each coupon said things like, "Good for one phone call just to say hello, no asking for favors. Good for one visit where you ask about my life. Good for one Mother's Day acknowledgement. Good for one sincere apology." At the bottom it said, "Use these coupons first. Then we'll talk about Europe. Request denied." Thomas opened his last. Inside was a check, but not made out to him. It was made out to a children's charity for $35,000. Margaret's entire nest egg that he'd been eyeing. The note said, "I've decided to invest in children who might actually appreciate it. Your business opportunity, like your Mother's Day call, is something I'll never see. Request denied." The silence in that room was deafening. Rebecca started crying. Daniel's face went red with shame. Thomas just stared at the check, speechless. "I want all of you to understand something," Margaret said, standing up from the table. "I will always love you. I will always be your mother. But I will no longer be your doormat. I will no longer sacrifice my own dignity and well-being to enable your selfishness. If you want a relationship with me, it needs to be a two-way relationship. That means you call me to check in, not just when you need something. That means you show up for me sometimes. That means you treat me with the basic respect and appreciation that any human being deserves." She walked to the door and opened it. "Now, I think you all have some thinking to do. When you're ready to be the children I raised you to be, kind, thoughtful, and appreciative, my door will be open. But until then, this dinner is over." And just like that, she showed them out. Every single one of them. Now you might be wondering what happened next. Did her children ever speak to her again? Did they come around? Did Margaret end up regretting her decision? Let me tell you, honey, this story has the most beautiful ending. It took 2 weeks, but Daniel was the first to call. He didn't ask for anything. He just said, "Mom, I'm so sorry. You were right about everything. I've been a terrible son, and I want to do better. Can we talk?" Rebecca showed up at Margaret's door a few days later with flowers, real ones, not gas station ones, and tears in her eyes. "I'm ashamed of myself, Mom," she said. "I took you for granted and I'm so sorry. Can you forgive me?" Thomas took the longest, almost a month, but when he finally reached out, he said something that brought Margaret to tears. "Mom, I'm going to earn back your trust. However long it takes, I'm going to show you that I can be the son you deserve." And you know what? They did change. Over the next 6 months, all 3 of Margaret's children stepped up in ways she never expected. Daniel started calling every Sunday, just to chat. He asked about her life, her interests, her needs. When Margaret mentioned she needed help with some home repairs, he showed up the next weekend with his tools, no questions asked. Rebecca organized a mom's day out once a month where she'd take Margaret to lunch, to a museum, to a movie, whatever Margaret wanted to do. No grandkids, no distractions, just quality mother-daughter time. Thomas not only apologized repeatedly, but he started doing something Margaret had never asked for. He sent her cards. Birthday cards, thinking of you cards, thank you cards. Little reminders that he was thinking about her. And when Mother's Day rolled around the following year, Margaret's phone didn't stop ringing. All 3 kids called first thing in the morning. They all showed up at her house with gifts, flowers, and homemade cards from the grandchildren. They cooked her dinner for once. They told her how much she meant to them. Margaret told me later that it was the best Mother's Day of her entire life. Not because of the gifts or the food, but because she finally felt seen. She finally felt valued. She finally felt like her children understood what she'd been trying to teach them all along: love is a two-way street. Now darlings, let me tell you what I love about Margaret's story. She didn't do what so many of us do when we're hurt by our loved ones. She didn't just swallow her pain and pretend everything was fine. She didn't enable bad behavior just to keep the peace. And she didn't cut her children off completely in anger. What Margaret did was set boundaries. Clear, firm, loving boundaries. She said, I love you, but I won't accept being treated this way. And then she followed through. That's what real love looks like sometimes, honey. Real love means holding people accountable. Real love means teaching people how to treat you. Real love means having enough respect for yourself to demand respect from others. Too many of us, especially mothers, have been conditioned to believe that loving our children means sacrificing ourselves completely. That we should be endlessly giving, endlessly forgiving, endlessly available, no matter how we're treated. But that's not love, that's martyrdom. And it doesn't help anyone. When we allow people to take advantage of us, we're not helping them. We're actually hurting them. We're teaching them that relationships are one-sided. That they don't have to put in effort. That they don't have to be thoughtful or considerate. And then we're surprised when they turn out to be selfish adults who can't maintain healthy relationships. Margaret's children didn't become better people because she kept enabling them. They became better people because she finally stood up for herself. She showed them what respect looks like. She taught them that their actions have consequences. She gave them the opportunity to grow. So if you're watching this and you've been feeling taken for granted by your family, by your friends, by anyone in your life, I want you to know that you have every right to set boundaries. You have every right to demand respect. You have every right to say enough is enough. Are you going to hit that subscribe button for Tales with Aunt Clara? Because we share stories like this every single week, stories about standing up for yourself, about family drama, about life lessons that'll make you think. Ring that notification bell so you never miss a story. Now I want to hear from you. Drop a comment below and tell me, have you ever been in Margaret's situation? Have you ever had to set hard boundaries with family members? How did it turn out? I read every single comment, and your stories might just inspire our next video. And if Margaret's story resonated with you, give this video a thumbs up. The more likes we get, the more people YouTube will show this to, and the more people will hear this important message about self-respect and boundaries. Share this video with someone who needs to hear it. Maybe it's a friend who's always being taken advantage of. Maybe it's a parent who keeps giving and giving without getting anything back. Maybe it's someone who just needs to know they're not alone in feeling underappreciated. Before we wrap up, I want to leave you with a few more pieces of wisdom that Margaret shared with me after everything settled down. First, she said, I wish I had set boundaries years earlier. She realized that by waiting until her resentment built up to a breaking point, the confrontation was more explosive than it needed to be. If she had addressed small issues along the way, like her children not returning calls, or only visiting when they needed something, it might not have come to such a dramatic moment. Second, she learned that actions speak louder than words. Her children had said "I love you, Mom" plenty of times over the years. But love is a verb, not just a feeling. Love requires action, effort, and consideration. When her children's actions didn't match their words, those words became hollow. Third, Margaret realized that she had underestimated her children. She thought they were incapable of change, that their selfish behavior was just who they were. But by holding them accountable, she gave them the opportunity to rise to the occasion. And they did. People can surprise you when you expect more from them. Finally, and this is the most important part, Margaret learned to value herself. For so many years, she had measured her worth by how much she could give to her children. But she realized that she had inherent value just by existing. She deserved love, respect, and appreciation not because of what she could do for others, but simply because she was a human being worthy of dignity. That's a lesson we all need to learn, darlings. Your worth isn't determined by your usefulness to others. You are valuable simply because you exist. You deserve to be treated well. Period. I'm curious about something, and I want you to answer. Honestly, in the comments, do you think Margaret was too harsh? Some people might say they're your children. You should forgive them no matter what. What do you think? Is there a point where forgiveness becomes enabling? Where's the line between being loving and being a doormat? Also, I want to know, which of the 3 children do you think had the most entitled request? Was it Daniel wanting $10,000 for a kitchen renovation? Rebecca wanting $6,000 for a vacation? Or Thomas wanting $35,000 for a business venture? Vote in the comments. And hey, if you liked this story, you're going to love what's coming next week. I've got a story about a woman who discovered her sister had been stealing from her for years, and the revenge she got. Oh honey. Make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss it. We've also got stories coming up about a mother-in-law who got exactly what she deserved, a husband who learned the hard way not to take his wife for granted, an entitled neighbor who messed with the wrong person, and so much more family drama that'll keep you on the edge of your seat. Remember, my darlings, life is too short to let people treat you poorly. You deserve better. You are better. And sometimes the most loving thing you can do for yourself and for others is to stand up and say no more. Margaret's story isn't just about Mother's Day or ungrateful children. It's about finding your voice. It's about respecting yourself. It's about teaching people how to treat you. Those are universal lessons we all need to hear. So be like Margaret. Set your boundaries. Know your worth. And don't be afraid to close the bank of you when people are making withdrawals without ever making deposits. This is Aunt Clara, reminding you that you are valuable, you are worthy, and you deserve respect. Until next time, take care of yourselves and remember, the best revenge isn't getting even, it's becoming so happy and fulfilled that you don't need revenge at all. Now go ahead and leave me a comment. Tell me your thoughts. Subscribe if you haven't already. And I'll see you in the next story. Much love, darlings. Much love.